Solve the equation by completing the square, give exact simplified solutions, and separate multiple solutions with commas. So to solve completing the square, the first thing I notice is that we have a number in front of x squared. The x squared has a coefficient. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first divide everything by 2, just to get rid of that. This is one way to do it. So the first term divided by 2, I'll get x squared minus 2x minus 9/2 equals 0. Next, I'm going to add the 9/2 to the other side. I always want to add that constant term when solving this way. So those cancel. I end up with x squared minus 2x. And now I'm going to have a plus blank, whatever that number that completes the square is. And then I'll have plus blank on the other side to keep it balanced. So I take half of 2 and square it. Well, half of 2 would be -1. -1 squared is just +1. Add that to both sides. When I add these two together, I need to have a common denominator. So I know 1 would just go to 2 over 2. And so this would become 11/2. Okay. So next, let's go ahead and factor this left side. Well, I know it's always going to factor into whatever half of that middle number is, which is -1. Or I could just factor it the other way. I know +1, I could factor to -1, -1. So either way you think of it, it's going to become x minus 1 squared equals 11/2. Now I want to solve it, so I'll square root both sides. Remember to put the plus or minus when I'm putting the square root on myself. Those cancel. I end up with x minus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 11/2. Now let's look at the square root of 11/2. We know in our final answer we cannot have a number, a radical in the denominator. And if you remember, square root of 11/2 really equals square root of 11 over square root of 2. Well, square root of 2 is not a perfect square, and so I'm going to multiply both by square root of 2 to rationalize that. So I've got 11 times 2, I get square root of 22. I can see that's not going to cancel. There's nothing that I could bring out. Square root of 2 times square root of 2 just gives me 2. And so that's what this becomes. So x minus 1 equals plus or minus square root of 22 over 2. Now I can add the 1 to both sides to finish solving that. And so I will get x equals a positive square root of 22 over 2 plus 1 and a negative square root of 22 over 2 plus 1. So those would be my two answers on that problem.